Okay, so we made it. We're at the start line of the Golden Globe race. We're here in Le Sable-d'Olonne in France, in the Vendée region, and it's been quite a journey to get here. 3 years, I think it's 3 years, at least 3 years in the making. Probably longer than that in terms of contemplating trying to do this crazy event. And it's quite surreal to be sitting here now talking to a GoPro about how you feel to get this far, because it's crazy. It's just the beginning. We haven't left yet. This is just getting to the start line. And I was saying earlier that something like 32 or 34 competitors have entered this race and tried to get here to the start line, and we'll have probably 18 skippers ready to go. So the attrition rate in projects like this is really high just to begin, just to have the opportunity to go out there and do what we're trying to do, which is sail around the world non-stop, unassisted, alone, without using modern technology. That's the challenge. And it is strange to be here because right now Puffin is behind me on the water. She's in great shape. She's in amazing shape, and I look around and there's some great boats here and great skippers, and I'm so pleased with what we've managed to achieve. It's on reflection. I was asked to reflect on that, and I think on reflection there's three. It's always the case, isn't it? Three things. The three things that you need to. That's been important here is number one is just being tenacious and resilient. Because so many times we've had the opportunity to stop and drop out of this. So many hurdles in the way, not least financial, because we're doing this with, minimum support. We've tried to raise sponsorship and we've been lucky. One is resilience and tenacity. Anyone that's got here must be very tenacious if they've had a journey anything like mine. You really have to learn how to overcome obstacles and keep a really positive outlook and just keep plowing forward. Somebody else smarter than me talked about the moving average, and I really think that's a great thing. You've got to keep moving forward every day. And like I say, this has been 3 years to get here, 3 years in the making. So that's really important. And then you've got to have some kind of team. You've got to build a team. And I've done that in my career, built teams, and that's what we've done here. And some are people that come and volunteer to help, some are professionals, but you get very, very close to them so you can maximize their time and your time. And it's amazing actually how it forms. And we formed a team around Puffin, a little bit of the universe, listening for you. And if you put yourself out there, people will come. But you've got to have them believe in the mission as well. And so you have to stay as I said, resilient and believing in the mission. But you can't do it without a team. So I have had a great team of people helping me to get me here. Certainly not. Would I be here if I did this alone? Possibly. Would I be in the kind of good shape I am now? Absolutely not. So you've got to be resilient, and you need to find a team to work with. That's not people to do it for you. That's just a team to keep you going and to help. It really is too complex for one person, I think. And then the third part of it is actually a massive logistics challenge. It just is a logistics challenge every single day to keep all these things coming together. And I'm here now, I've got 12 days, I think, before the start, after a 3-year project, and we're still working on logistics even now, right to the last minute. And in some ways, if you've got that working well, you can almost relax because it's working. The moment that breaks down, you've got a problem on your hands, and all these things are a string of pearls together, and if you lose one, the whole thing can fall apart. And we've had that along the way for sure. We've had supply chain issues because the world has been a difficult place over the last couple of years. We all know that, and all the skippers have suffered from that at some level. So sitting here now at the end of August in the sunshine with a boat that feels well prepared, with my team here, a team of people that have been around me all the way, and my family coming over soon, and looking back on that, it's really, I'm really proud of what we've done. So there we go, almost ready to start. Puffin, and it's been a journey already. It's been a massive journey. It's been such a journey already. I can't tell you how difficult at times it's been to be here now. And right now I know I'm, hopefully, touch wood, I'm about to start another part of the journey. You know, I'm going to say goodbye to my family for a long time, and hopefully there'll be a story from that, and there'll be the story of the journey, and then there's a story of what comes afterwards as well. I'm well aware from previous events that these things live on. Yeah, we've got such a great following, so much support already. It's been wonderful. We've had some great people join us as sponsors, as individual sponsors, and the marine industry has stepped up and helped Puffin. So we've obviously caught the imagination because they've helped us a lot with equipment, and it's still a huge journey to be here. So, but we are here. We're on the start line. We're beginning to be ready to start the next phase of this journey. And what we're still short of, what would be great, is still to have a if you like, a title supporter, a title sponsor, someone else to join the team that can help make the story a bit bigger than I can do it by myself. You know, someone that's going to be able to, a company that can take advantage of the story and join us. I still think that would be a marvelous thing. I think we're going to create really good stories for people along the way, and it'd be for businesses. So it'd be great to find that partner now, and that would finish off the campaign, if that makes sense. So that partner to help us get over the line, or go over the line with us, I should say. We're going to cross the line, but to help to go over that line with us would be amazing. So there she is, Puffin. Welcome on board. So Puffin's what we've been working on for the last 3 years, and to get us here to the beginning of the Golden Globe race. Puffin's a Tradewind 35. These are all old designs, these boats, that's part of the race. They're classics, effectively. They're all production boats, but you have to take a production boat, which is like a standard family car, and then you have to prepare it to go essentially through probably the most hostile places some of the most hostile places on the planet. So it's very much that type of challenge. You know, preparation is key, and the planning that we put in today is what's hopefully will keep us out of trouble later on when, you know, when we're at sea, whether it be in the Atlantic or the Southern Ocean, wherever it may be. You know, every detail that we've thought about, everything that we've tried to strengthen on this boat will hopefully pay me back and buy me time when things are tough. And equally, hopefully I'll look after her while we're on our journey, and she'll look after me. So when you build a project like this, you put a lot of yourself into the boat. You know, it's a lot of passion. You know, it's not just a boat. This is literally my space capsule. So when I slip lines, I'll be away up to 300 days maximum. Hopefully no more than 300 days anyway. And this Puffin is everything to me. She's absolutely everything. She's going to keep me alive, and I have to keep her afloat. So I'll give you a quick walk around on Puffin now, from the bow down to the cockpit, and then we'll go down below. Without getting boring and techie, I've got 3 head sails on the front of the boat. You'll see behind me, this is my lovely stay sail, my Solent stay, and my Genoa on the front. So basically sails and ropes, no surprise, she's a boat. And if I take you back, you'll start to see a few things on board. On the deck I have solar panels. So obviously we have to be self-sufficient at sea while we're away, so that means self-sufficient in power, food and water, and indeed for any repairs I have to do and so on. So prepping the boat is all those things. So you'll see solar panels on board. We've done a number of things to the boat to try and make it easier for me to sail, and therefore safer for me to sail, and that includes bringing control lines back to my cockpit so I can spend more time in the safety of the cockpit, less time at risk on the deck as possible. You know, those who are sailors will recognise things like jack lines. Ian, this is what I tie myself to. Hey buddy, good to see you. When I'm moving around the deck, I'll flip onto the safety lines to try and keep myself on the deck. So as we go back, she's a pretty traditional boat. We have some unusual touches, like one of the few boats you'll ever see with what you might call a roll cage, and this is clearly a really strong structure that I can hang on to and I can clip onto at sea. And the idea is that I can come out of the cockpit and remain attached to the boat as I move forward. And they say it's one hand for yourself and one hand for the boat. What they mean is one hand to do the job and one hand to hold on. So you'll see that all the way through, particularly when we go below actually. Okay, so we're in Puffin's cockpit right now. Pretty standard, it's a standard sailing boat, but again made to be very, very rugged. One of the things which is less standard is something called a wind vane steering system, which is on the back of the boat here. This is a system that steers the boat when I'm not at the helm. It's purely mechanical, there's no electronics involved with this, there's no electricity in fact, apart from there's a light on the back. And I set that wind vane up to sail the boat to a certain wind angle. Now that's great, and that'll sail the boat while I'm asleep, but what it will do is if the wind changes, it will sail me in a different direction. So it's not a fire and forget, you have to be constantly monitoring it. So other than that, obviously there's a life raft back here, and all the control lines, well not all, most of the control lines come back to the cockpit. So you'll see I've got endless cockpit bags all over the place for stowing lines when I'm actually at sea and try and keep this place organised. Looking forward, if you take a look down here, you see a couple of other features which are a little bit unusual, I guess. This is a watertight hatch. So a normal boat would have washboards in here and a sliding hatch. Because of what I'm trying to do with this particular race, I felt that this would be a good option for us to have the ability to lock the doors down, which I've just done, at sea. So if there is a risk of a rollover potentially or a capsize, hopefully I've determined that risk in time and I may have gone down below, right, where I'm more secure and literally batten down the hatches. So that's why it's got this very unusual door. What it means is I can't put on too much weight when I'm at sea, otherwise I won't be able to get through the hatch. And this is Puffin down below. So below decks on Puffin, she's pretty classic traditional sailing boat actually, in some ways quite unremarkable. It's kind of what's behind or below the surface that you can't see that makes the boat quite special. I'm here in my small galley now, I don't know if you can see that, but you know, on this boat there's no gas, for example. Obviously there's no electricity or anything like that for cooking. I cook on an alcohol stove, it's very simple, and it basically there's nothing to go wrong. My galley other than that would be pretty standard. What you'll see in here is there's handholds everywhere, right? All of my fids, my edges are very high, so when I put something on here, the chances are it's going to stay. That's the idea. And these are little features that make the boat more suitable for sort of ocean sailing, you might say. My chart table where I'll do my navigation. Again, this race is a race that doesn't involve technology. You have electrical systems on board, but it's very limited technology. Really only what was available in the late 60s. So that's VHF radio and high frequency radio. But that's it. No chart plotters, no radars, no electronic auto helms, no iPads, no iPhones. Most of all, no software for weather routing and that type of thing. There's no water makers on board, for example. However, what we do have, I've tried to make it as resilient as possible. So I've got all my electrical systems are built into watertight enclosures, which is quite unusual to do that. I've got a dual system where I have a primary and a secondary, so everything on the boat can run on one. I can lose an entire system and keep the boat running. And worst case scenario, I have an emergency electrical system, which is a small battery which only operates my emergency communication equipment, and that's stored somewhere else in the boat and it's high and dry, so even in a complete flooding event I should still have an opportunity. So I've really got a very resilient electrical system, and the final line of defense is an emergency communication system where I've got a separate battery and circuitry, so if everything's flooded I should still be able to use my emergency communication equipment as well. This is a race around the world that is solo, and it's unassisted, it's non-stop, and we're using older technology for navigation. We're using traditional technology, but we do have a safety net as well. And the safety net is as up to date as any sailing event in the world. So behind me up here there's an EPIRB. These are emergency positioning beacons. There's 4 of those on board this boat. There's a tracker, so an audience, you know, the public, can see where my boat is at any time, 24/7. I can't. I don't see that information. So strangely, as an audience, people at home will be able to see where I am, what the weather system is that I'm in, and indeed they'll even be able to see what weather system's coming my way. So it's a very unusual thing. It's very, very unique that you can put a group of adventurers in a position where there is an audience can watch what's going on, but they don't know. No, they don't have that information. They can only see what they're sailing in at a given time. So it's a strange combination, but it makes it quite compelling, I think. And I also think in some ways it's nicer for the people at home, people I leave behind, to be able to see that and be able to log on to the website and have a view of what's going on Puffin, at least in some way. So we've got a full safety net on board. I have a lot of emergency equipment, which I'll show you down below, really to the highest level. And the Golden Globe race requires that, and this is all the skippers will have this equipment on board. So this is my navigation. In here it's all paper charts, and with my paper charts I use something called a sextant. So I'm using the sun and the stars to navigate. Okay, so Puffin's almost ready for sea at the moment, so she's quite clear. I like clear decks. What you guys can't see is behind all these lockers is 300 days of food. Under the floor is 300 days of water, hopefully, if I've got enough. All the fuel, all the tools, all the equipment that I need to be self-sufficient on this mission. And I've managed to keep it reasonably clear. But you'll see her in a format which is similar to the way I'll be leaving. So again, quite traditional sailboat down below. But you'll see things like this screen that I put up. Now I won't have this up at the beginning of the race, but as things get colder, as I go further south, I'll put this canvas work up to try and keep my primary bunk as dry and as free of salt as possible, because the environment is obviously going to be wet, but it's going to stay wet and damp for a long time. So I hope by doing this I give myself a chance of at least keeping one area comfortable for sleeping. You might notice the seat belts, which is a very odd thing to see on a boat, on my bunk. This is a requirement of the race. I'll just step in here. And my friends at Irvin GQ, who are a sponsor, made these up for me. They make parachutes for military jets, and they made these amazing bunk belts for me. So the idea is, in the worst conditions, if I have to be in my bunk, then I've got an opportunity to secure myself in case of rollover if the boat absolutely capsizes. To try to minimize the risk of injury. But other than that, she's a pretty standard boat. This is all custom built units, and obviously what this does, it gives me lots of handhold as I move around the boat. My emergency equipment will all be stowed below here. So right in the center of the boat, I have my emergency grab bag, my survival suit, and so on. And the idea being, very simply, if I need this stuff in a hurry, then it's right in the center of the boat. I don't have to unpack it. So moving forward in Puffin now, again, very standard. My bathroom, the heads, is in here. I do have a heads, but it's also going to be my wet locker. So you can imagine I've got wet foul weather gear, boots, and I've got multiple sets. Again, part of the preparation, I'll take probably 3 sets of gear with me, and that will hang in here, and this will become a wet area. I'll keep my medical equipment in here and so on. So yes, it's the bathroom, but it's also a very practical part of the boat. What you can't see on Puffin is I've got multiple ways to pump water out of the boat. So I mentioned that because the bathroom is one of those systems, and it can actually double up as an emergency pump in a case of flooding. So in here is a big locker, and it's been decked out like a workshop. So essentially this is my workshop. It's full of tools, it's full of spares, I've got vices, everything I could possibly need to keep the boat going, hopefully all in one place, all highly secure. And forward, this is quite bare in here at the moment, but this will be my sail locker at the front of the boat. Now right at the very bow we have something called a crash bulkhead. And this is designed that if the boat does have an impact with something, floating object, God forbid another vessel, and the front of the boat is ruptured in some way, this can flood and yet not flood the boat. So it's a very strong area, and it's full of what's it full of? It's full of foam, and old water bottles to give it buoyancy, so if it does fill up with water. So that's a crash bulkhead, that's watertight. Under these bunk boards, where in a traditional boat you'd have cushions for sleeping, is my food and water actually, and that's spread throughout the boat. And these are sealed down and sealed from each other, so again, if I have a flooding incident, then I am trying to minimize the impact on the boat all the way. And then what you see in here at the moment before the sails come in is other equipment. This is my anchor, that's in this red bag here, that's lashed into my spare rudder for my hydrovane, which is the self-steering system on board. These things aren't in place yet, but this is my climbing equipment, so I need climbing equipment so I can get up the mast. So I've got a full set of climbing equipment, spare solar panels, I've got repair material to repair the boat if the boat has damage. Then I'm carrying actually sheets of material here that I can fix the boat. Spare hydrovane blades. Self-steering is really important. If the self-steering fails me, then it's very, very hard to complete an event like this. So I'm carrying what I can to keep that system going. And then there's more canvas work and so on. So lots of food under here. On the boat today, I have 260 day bags of food. And every day I'll have a bag, and that bag is my rations for the day. And we've arranged it into day bags and then distributed them throughout the boat. When I sail, this space will also be full to the roof with sail bags, spare sails for the boat. So spinnakers, storm jibs, different sized genoas. So it's going to be a pretty tight space in here, but I'm hoping that the planning and the prep means that I'm in reasonable order when I leave. There you go.